Hello, coin collectors out there. If you're like me and many coin collectors, you have a book that looks something like this. In fact, many people that aren't coin collectors even have one of these books. And it was a great time trying to put this book together when I was younger. And I kind of revisited it and checked out to make sure I had all the quarters necessary for this book. But as you can see, it is a 50 state quarter book. I happen to be missing a few. These are just the ones that I pulled out to talk about in today's video. Now, if you put together one of these books, you would probably have a hard time finding these five quarters right here. These five quarters are the lowest mintage state quarters, so that's what today's video is going to focus upon. So in order of lowest mintage, we have Oklahoma on the left right here. Oklahoma quarter was made in 2008, and the mintages for that quarter were in total 416 million, split evenly about from the Denver and the Philadelphia Mint. So all of these quarters kind of had a equal mintage to them. Next up, my home state of Maine, quarter made in 2003. There are 448 million. In Missouri in 2003 as well. Move that over for you. There were 453 million. In Wisconsin, there were also 453 million. Now, there's actually a very cool design manipulation quarter with the Wisconsin quarter that we might talk about later in today's video, in which there's a extra leaf kind of coming right from this piece of corn right here. And the fifth lowest mintage quarter is this one right here, also made in 2003 for Alabama. So as you can see, 2003, a very low mintage year for the state quarters. We have three of the five lowest mintage that were made just in 2003. Now, the state quarters were very cool for coin collectors and people in the general public. One of the cooler parts about them is that they were released every 10 weeks. So from January 1st, 1999, all the way until November 3rd, 2008, a new state quarter was released every 10 weeks. This kept coin collectors on their toes and promised newsworthy events for numismatic coin collectors out there. Official coin unveilings were very big, kind of popular events. Government officials, mint officials, state officials would all go to these unveilings. They would unveil the design and we would make the news. It would be popular, kind of the talk of the town. I remember when the Maine state quarter was unveiled and that was released to the general public, everyone went to the bank, tried to get one full roll of state quarters just so they could kind of hide it away. Now, if you went to the bank and you got a Wisconsin state quarter, a full roll of the error state quarters, that would be super cool and definitely worth checking if you are from the state of Wisconsin. Now, you could get those if you were at any other state, but if you were like me, you would definitely just kind of looking for your own state quarter. Now, there were some different issues. There were different finishes that were issued as part of this series. The most common one was the five-piece copper nickel clad sets containing only the quarters. There was also some less common but more valuable ones, the five-piece silver proof sets, which began in 2004, and the multi-denominational proof sets with denominations above 5 cents that included that year's state quarter. Now, unfortunately, the copper nickel clad proof sets, the copper nickel clad proof sets were issued for $13.95 each. Those had 5 pieces in them that were released that year. Unfortunately, those didn't really appreciate too much in price. You can find those ones that originally sold for $13.95 on eBay right now for $10 or less. So they might have maintained their value a little bit, but they definitely didn't appreciate. There are a couple that are a little bit more rare than others. The 1999 S and the 2001 S 5-piece clad proof sets are going for around like $70 to $50, representative by respectively around 2003. So those ones were the highest ones that were sold. Generally, those were sold around 2003. That was kind of still when people were in the peak state quarter mania. As far as the highest state quarters go, as far as largest production, there were 8 that were over a billion in total that were produced. So these ones are going to be pretty easy to come across, and this kind of explains why you might usually see these ones versus the other ones. The highest mintage quarter was the Virginia quarter, which had a total mintage of 1.5 billion, followed by the Connecticut at 1.3, South Carolina at 1.3, New York 1.2, Maryland 1.2, New Hampshire 1.1, Massachusetts 1.1, and the last quarter that had a mintage of over a billion was the North Carolina quarter, which had 1,055,476,000. So those are the different mintages for the state quarters. I'll briefly talk about the Wisconsin design manipulation quarter, but I have some other more in-depth videos about this one. So if you're interested in really getting to know this Wisconsin era quarter, feel free to check those out. So the Wisconsin era quarter is actually a design manipulation. It's not a die crack, it's not double die or a die cut. There's actual design manipulation where there was an extra leaf that was added to the die itself. So the extra leaf, which was not intended to be there, runs from about right here to about right here. It's really unclear why that extra leaf was put in there. It's not sure if that the person designing that particular design or engraving that particular die made it intentionally or unintentionally. If you were to make it intentionally, it would be very hard to actually profit from it, because once these coins are produced, they're sent by contractors to be rolled, and they don't really come back in contact with the minter themselves. So could have been intentional, could have been unintentional. It's not really clear. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you're looking still for that Oklahoma, Maine, Missouri, Wisconsin, or Alabama quarter, totally understandable, as these ones have very low mintages. All right, everyone, thank you, and best of luck coin collecting out there. Enjoy.